Hey everybody, Mariner here. Welcome to Net That Hole, another matchup show where we're going to dissect the numbers and matchups for game week 29. In fact, blank game week 29. There's only 4 fixtures. It's a bit different to what we've been used to. As always, we just ask you, if you really like what you're seeing, to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and of course hit the bell so that you're notified when we're on next, which is twice a week these days. And I've got the same gentleman who joined me very kindly on Tuesday, Nima, and of course we have Gabe with us as well. So, hey boys, how are you doing? All good?
Morning.
How's things, mate?
Nima went on mute again.
Yeah, Nima, are you muted again?
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. I almost said good evening, but yeah. This is the beauty of the 3 different time zones.
We have to start pulling Zolfar's intro. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. That covers everything.
Well, but we must, first of all, before we waste too much time and all of a sudden end up behind schedule before we start. Gabe, you're actually up at 8 o'clock in the morning rather than 7. Is that correct?
I feel like it's almost lunchtime for me. I've been up for so long. I'm used to waking up so early for these shows.
Cheers to that.
Not that early. It's not that late.
Look, 2 out of 3 of us have been drinking for a while. So anyway, let's keep going. Right then, everybody, just to let you know what's going to go on. Things have changed, as you probably know. We've managed to split this show up a little bit because it was getting a bit too long. It still might be a bit long tonight, but hopefully not as bad as we've been before. There's no team reviews, so we can't hear how bad Gabe's done this week. Sorry, mate. We don't have any notable performances either, because we've spoken about that on Tuesday's show, and that's all there for you to watch on Catch Up now. There's no troll, there's no Hall of Shame, but there is Fixture Difficulty and a bit more. Then we're going to let Lens loose on 29 and Nima on Free Hit. So we're going to have also the usual stuff: Soucek, Prince, Captaincy, and questions. So hopefully in the next hour and 15, 30, let's try and stick ourselves to that point. Let's see how we do. So let's dive straight in, boys, I think. So let's see what's happening in the world of Fixture Difficulty. And the FPLMariner Fixture Difficulty, I've actually named it now. I'm claiming this, seeing as though we've been working on this quite hard. But we can't forget the hard work that Ben Krellin does with respect to his fixture difficulty, and I have used his numbers between 1 and 7 to be able to generate our numbers. But just to remind everybody how it's devised, and I think it's important that we do that this week. The matchups are based on the last 6 game weeks per 90 minutes data, and it doesn't account for home and away. As you can see, they're the same numbers. It compares XG attack against XG defense. It compares shots in box attack against shots in box defensively, and big chances from an attacking perspective against big chances conceded. It then fits into Ben's number 1 to 7, 1 being best, 7 being worst. So in other words, Manchester City and Sheffield United. And if we look very quickly at the attacking review on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the best number is 1.4 this week. The middle is 3.6. The worst is 5.7. Defensively, best 1.2. Middle 3.1 and worst 6.7. So that tells me that defense is slightly above attack. And I think we've been finding this now for a few weeks. And let me just give you the example, which we would put up and which we used last week. Manchester City's this has changed slightly from, because this is this week's fixture difficulty. But if we wind back to Manchester City against Fulham, Manchester City's attack was 1.4 against Fulham's defence of 2.8. That's a plus 1.4. So that's a reasonable positive. City's defence was 2.3 against Fulham's attack 4.4. That was a big positive. Now, that suggested a City win to 0, but that it could be tough, in my opinion. That's what I said earlier. And it pretty much was, apart from that 15 minutes. So, guys, just bring you in on this one. I've highlighted the very good in green. I've highlighted, it's like almost like promotion and relegation. Grimsby would be in red. But how, what's any perspectives on this before we move into the actual matrices themselves?
I was noticing, and I commented on them actually in the matchups article. So I was looking at, I'm looking a little bit differently. The anything above 3, I see as, I'm kind of painting it as red, or to better state it, anything, I won't see anything good unless it's below 3. So I was looking at the 3s, and I think there are 1, 2, 3, only 3 of 3 offensive ratings are below 3. So are good in that sense, right? If 3.5 is halfway, right? So that I thought was really striking. Only 3 of them are really, really, super green.
Yeah, and bear in mind, the only thing that changes is the calculation is reversed. That's it.
Right.
So it's literally treated exactly the same way. And at the start of the season, I thought it was the other way around, and I was a bit worried that it wasn't working properly. But then as it's worked out through the year, it's gone the other way. Nima, do you want to comment on the defensive side of things at all?
Yeah, for sure. So I think something that strikes out to me is that it definitely feels like Brighton is the only one that kind of even the bookies are expecting to get a clean sheet. Like everyone else on the bookies odds is like below 33% clean sheet. Brighton are above 50%. So we also know how Brighton like to break stats. So I have no doubt that, we're going to double or triple up on their defense on free hits, for instance, when I talk about that segment. And I'm sure they'll somehow concede. Personally, I don't see a clean sheet in any game this game week apart from for Brighton. I don't see any of the other teams keeping a clean sheet. And I think the numbers kind of paint that story too.
And next week we can talk about Sheffield United, but not this week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to a Sheffield United session.
Same here. I think we have a lot.
We will say very briefly, 6.7 out of 7. What on earth is going on? Right, let's keep going. It's pretty bad. So on the fixture difficulties, and again, we do attack against defense. But today, just to thin it down a little bit, I'm not going to talk about all the individual metrics. I'm just going to talk about basically just XG, I think. And I think that's the simplest way to talk. Because obviously now you've got the earlier slide, you can actually see how it's working. And of course, we're not here to basically spoon feed people. We want, actually, the way that Gabe and I work is we actually want you all to actually embrace what we do and actually look into it and learn it. And you might even come up with a better idea than we do. So
can I want to insert a quote. This is a good time to insert a quote. When I was teaching high school or secondary school, as it's known, I had a wallpaper on my desktop, and every time I would display my screen up for the students, it'd say, it was a Socrates quote. And it said, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only teach people to think." That's what we're trying to do.
Very true. Well, we need to teach Nima how to think because he's just disappeared. Oh, there he is. He's back. Right.
I think Nima's battling with a sandwich.
Yeah. I was trying to wipe my camera to see if it becomes less blurry or something. But
don't worry. But just anyway, at least you've opened your camera, unlike Hibbo. But anyway, that's another point. He's on next week. We can.
Who knows, Nima? If you wipe that camera, it might be worse with the more clear.
I think I might have made it worse with the sandwich.
Oh it's already deteriorating. We've only been going 9 minutes and it's already going crazy. Right. Look, I'm just going to say very, very quickly here. If we look at XG over the last 4 games, City 2.25, Chelsea 1.87, Leicester now 1.77, Palace, Sheffield United, and West Brom clearly the weaker of the when we talked about XG. And I just want to make a few points here. I've highlighted Chelsea. I've highlighted Leicester now. And of course, their stats have been blown away by the fact that they played against, how can we put it, a bunch of strategically placed dustbins. It's the only way I could describe it. It was awful. It was like Sunday League. It reminded me of my old Sunday League football team. I know I use that analogy, and maybe one of them might watch one day and slag me off, but it was true. They were just awful. But Leicester clearly, and because we're working on the last 6 fixtures, it's going to show that, it's going to show that number. But Leicester still look a pretty good option attacking wise. And do you know what? Have we sleepwalked past Vardy a little bit last week? There's a possibility maybe we did. Maybe we all did. Maybe we got hoodwinked by Maddison and Barnes being injured. But we can come back to that point later. I wanted to make that point anyway. City are clearly green. And if we look about, I can switch it round and talk about defence. Just look at the top. Sheffield United green. That says captain anyone against Sheffield United. Basically, I think we're coming to that point. And Chelsea expect a clean sheet. I think that's where I'm coming with it. So that's the attack side of things. I'll bring you in at the end of the second section, guys, if that's okay. Defensively wise, look at Chelsea. Look how good. We're only really cementing what we've just said. Yeah. Chelsea, very, very good. Manchester City, very, very good. Sheffield United, very, very bad. And when we just keep going a little bit more, and again, just to catch a bit of time up here, I want to move to the fixture difficulties. And I think it's better to look at the fixture difficulties for 29 and 30 in particular, which we're going to do first. And then we'll look a little bit further out. So if we now start looking at it from game week 29 and 30, the only positive matchup is Brighton. Do you see that on attack? The only positive matchup is Brighton. It surprised me a little bit. But, Leeds and West Ham are neutral. But that surprised me. Defensively, Brighton again stand out. And I think anyone who looks at statistics, like Nima says, has got Brighton players in their free hit side for sure, and probably 2 or 3. If anybody's thinking about it logically, maybe they haven't. I don't know. Defensively, Brighton, very good, 2.7. Spurs, 1.4. Leeds, 1.3. That tells you that Fulham have not been great going forwards, even though everybody thinks that they actually are. Maybe a Stuart Dallas of this world is actually a very, very good option. We'll come back to him later on. If we look at it from 29 and 30 combined, which I think is an important way of doing it, because remember the fixtures move, the fixture change pretty much is 31. If we look at that, Leeds now 1.5 positive. Why? Because they're playing Sheffield United next week after the international break. Brighton and West Ham actually only 0.3. And defensively, Brighton still the best, Spurs then Leeds. And then if we talk about form, so that's basically the full season to now, the full season against the last 6. Attack, Villa are worse. Why? Because Jack Grealish is not available. Fulham have dropped off, surprisingly, given the fact they're trying to stay up. But maybe they've just, shall we say, wound in what they're trying to do a little bit, trying to be a bit tighter at the back, not concede. Draws will do. Newcastle and Spurs neutral. Defensively, Brighton and Fulham are very good. And Spurs are okay. And on the bad side of things, Newcastle, not very good. And when we talk about average returns, just to finish this little bit off, so I'm talking about Kieran Tierney here or someone like that, or maybe Lewis Dunk. Brighton, the best average. Leeds then, and then West Ham. So if we're talking about, maybe Tierney wasn't a great example for 29 and 30, but if you look at it, that tells you about players like Lewis Dunk, Stuart Dallas, and Cresswell. So that's roughly where we're going with respect to the fixture difficulties over the next two game weeks. Guys, what's your perspective?
I'll let Nima chime in here first. Sure. What do you think?
So I think for me, a lot of people are going to have a shock when they load up their game week 30 team tomorrow evening and realize that they're going to really struggle to decide what to do with their City players who are playing Leicester away with cup games in between versus their Leeds players who they've probably loaded up on in advance of this blank. I don't think you can bench Leeds assets against Sheffield, especially if Dallas does end up in midfield. So I think if you've got 3 Leeds assets, you have to play them in 30. This week, I guess what I would say is I'd be a bit hesitant to focus too much on a metric or data or statistics on the Newcastle-Brighton game, as I alluded to earlier, just because I think people underestimate that match in itself is almost like a relegation 6-pointer, because if they are both content to get like a 1-1 or a draw, that still helps both of them against Fulham. But equally, I think Newcastle will know that this is a must-win game. Like, if they can beat, if Newcastle can beat Brighton, like, this is huge for them. Like, it probably saves them from any chance of being relegated. And it kind of kills Fulham a bit, and it makes Brighton a little bit nervous. Yeah. So I think that's my main thing, I would say. So I saw some stuff about Brighton being like top of the league on XG and third for XG conceded. But, in the grand scheme of things, they're basically a couple points off relegation. And Fulham can very much catch one of those two teams up. And I don't know, therefore, how predictable the Brighton-Newcastle game really is.
No, and to be honest, if you look at the returns from Dunk, the clean sheets all came in a big chunk a while ago, right? I can't quite remember exactly when the game weeks were, 21, 22, 23 or something like that.
5 and 6, yeah.
Yeah, they had quite a lot of around the first double game week, around that sort of period. They did, but since then, all he's had is that attacking return.
What I would say actually is a final thought that I've seen some very kind of veteran managers choosing not to use both their transfers this week. So they've kind of called getting these Brighton players as bums on seats moves, where you're just trying to get to 11, so you're bringing them in with a transfer. The reality is, if you could save a transfer and have 2 free transfers coming into game week 30 after an international break, when teams like Chelsea are going to have fantastic fixtures, do you really want a Brighton player now just to have a seat and then see them like concede against Newcastle and like that's a transfer gone that you might need after international break? So there is some real difficult thinking here.
That's a great point. I think we might come back to that later on, guys, because, what we're forgetting is the fact that the first rule is always have 2 free transfers at the end of when there's an international break, right?
Especially in a COVID season.
Loaded up like, whoa, the old rabbit in the headlights, right? We need Leeds players, we need Brighton players, we need all these players. And of course, what we've forgotten is the fact there's an international break and there's COVID still, and it's actually getting worse in some parts of Europe, not better. So although it's doing very well in the UK, it's getting worse. Okay, so now let's go a bit further out. And I think this is where it starts to. This is for you non-wildcarders, people who've used them basically, like me. I don't have this. I might have a decent rank, but I don't have this ability to be able to change my team. So the moves I've got to make have got to be for a little bit longer period in time. So looking at these, I've highlighted Arsenal, I've highlighted Leicester, and I've highlighted Wolves. Let's talk about Arsenal. Arsenal offers long-term, particularly, routes for attack and defensive returns. Kieran Tierney, anyone who holds Kieran Tierney may well be lucky. Gabe, don't sell him.
No, I got him. He was a long-term investment. I brought him in perhaps a little bit too soon, but I saw how the weeks were playing out, and he could have returned. I'm happy to hold him. I'm glad I got the early jump on Tierney.
But look at Green. Back Green tells me that an Arsenal defender, maybe not now, but maybe in 31, where this list starts from, is a pretty good investment. Brighton, stat busters, right? Okay, let's leave it at that. We've already talked about Brighton.
Can we say one thing? So Brighton they're stat busters in the opposite way that Vardy's a stat buster. So Vardy's a stat buster in his favor. Brighton, whether it's offense or defense, it's been their story, their narrative this season. They bust their stats to their own detriment. So I agree with Nima. That's who they are, I guess. Okay. I agree with Nima that I see this. I can just see the scenes in the FPL community on Twitter when Joe Ellington sets up Miguel Almiron.
Who did you say?
First goal.
Who did you say?
Joe Ellington sets up Miguel Almiron. There's check one, ding one of the names off the list there.
Sorry, the seat's collapsed again. That's the new joke. Whenever you mention it, the seat collapses. It's actually quite deliberate. It's just a ploy. But we didn't set this up, boys, honestly. But no, you're right. You're spot on. Can I just Could I just finish this stuff off now? Let you loose with your matchups about 25 minutes early from what we normally do. So this is where we're going in the right direction with this show. Look how good Chelsea look. They look excellent up to game week 34 in defence. Now, who to go for? I'll tell you who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Azpilicueta. I just have this feeling that if you can get to Aspie, I think he might be better than Rudiger. Although Christensen is he ill? Did I not see there's something that he's ill or has a fever? But I don't think he's got COVID. But
no, I think you're right. I saw someone get very upset because they wrote an entire thread about Christensen, and they were kind of like, "Oh, that's fantastic news that he's out."
Yeah. But from my perspective, I think is if you can get to Aspie, I think he's just that little bit more nailed, and possibly has that little bit more of attacking threat there. That's my view. But I do like Chelsea attacking. I would not be at all objectionable about a Chelsea double up. Actually,
I think for me, if I was doubling up, I'd be looking more at like the goalkeeper Mendy plus Rudiger. Yeah. But if I was only going to get one Chelsea defensive asset, I think Azpilicueta would be the one. But in a double up, I don't know if I could like afford him and one other. That's the only thing for me.
So the one thing in a double up, I would actually play it a little bit differently there, Nima. Okay. I would definitely have Rudiger for the value. I think he's just the best value you can get on that back line. And then if I'm doubling up, I would go upside and choose Alonso.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Yeah,
similar price, right?
One nailed starter that's cheap, and then one expensive with upside. I think is a nice combination.
So you're doing a Cancelo and Stones on me then?
That's basically what just happened.
Pretty much, exactly. And I've had them for like more than 10 weeks as well. So yeah,
and we'll come on to that one because we're gonna. I dare say there'll be discussions about selling Manchester City assets in the questions later. But let's keep going. Let's quickly look at Leicester. Maddison's possibly back after the international break, by what I read today. And of course, we've got Iniacho and we've got Vardy, who could flip-flop between Kane and was I just about to say Aguero? Could Aguero be an option for City going forward? We won't talk too much about that today, but I'm not sure he's going to play in the Champions League. So if he doesn't play in the Champions League, you never know. He might play in the Premier League. And
he could be. There are some rumors that that Barcelona are about to sign Aguero with the new president, and Messi has a big role. He has a lot to say.
Sorry, who was that, Gabe? Who was that? What was his name?
Lionel Messi or Sergio Aguero?
Oh. Get those chats in, guys. We've got to listen to this accent. Sorry, boys. Right, it's this wine. It really is. It's a French one. It's very good. And the other thing I'm going to say, just to finish off this section before we move on to you, Gabe, with the focus on the blank game week 29 matchups. Everybody's been talking a lot about Wolves. Now, I'm going to say to you, and I'd really love both your perspectives on this. The metric doesn't like them.
No.
The metric really doesn't like them. So what's your perspective on this? Because I was going to bring someone like Ruben Saiz in or someone like that. He was probably going to be my go-to option. Or maybe even Willy Bolly. But what's your views, guys? Nima, can I start with you?
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think as soon as we saw obviously Patricio go off injured, that kind of ruled out any defensive double up. So that's out of my thinking. I still like the idea of a Bolly, like you said, like just as the one defender maybe for the fixtures. But actually, I think the player I would pick, and I'd probably only go for one, is Neto. Like I think if I'm wildcarding around game week 31, I've just really enjoyed what I've seen of him this year. I think he's really growing up. He's kind of taking ownership of that, getting the whole team forward in Jimenez's absence.
Yeah.
So I really like Neto. I don't think at this point I would want two Wolves players though. So it would kind of be either Bolly or Neto for me. And although the fixtures look okay on the kind of the official FDR, I don't really want to be playing for clean sheets. I prefer playing a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. I can't see how Bolly or any Wolves defender would be prioritized over my, say, Chelsea defense, my City defense, maybe Tierney. So I just don't think there's space in my kind of formation for a Wolves defender. Neto is a bit exciting to me, though.
I mean, Gabe, Fulham, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Brom, Brighton. Why doesn't this metric love them?
Because they're missing their talisman. They're missing their marking sign up front. The guy that shows everybody where to be in Raúl Jiménez.
Jimenez, yeah.
Raúl Jiménez.
I would say I'm from Grimsby, so I'd say Jimenez. Oh.
Jimenez.
Jimenez.
Jimmy down the road.
Raúl. We'll call him Raúl.
I love it. God, I'll tell you what, we're going to end up. Someone said tonight, did you hear what somebody put on Twitter? Somebody said, can Gabe do a ringtone?
we might have to start a third show on a different website.
If anybody wants to talk to Gabe, I suggest you come to the stereo show tomorrow lunchtime, and then you can talk.
Yes. Then and I'll be on the sauce tonight in that stereo show. So my lips will be loose, as they say. but Nehal just commented, and it's a good point. With Rui Patricio most likely out, he's injured. Then that certainly makes the defensive options for Wolves a little more concerning. And the metric doesn't like them because they just don't create enough. They don't. I think Pedro Neto is an interesting shout, is an option, but when you have comparable assets in, the emergence of Jota, we have Rafinha, right? Saka, if he could hit the frame, that would be nice. But we have all Mounts, for example, as well. Then compare them with Neto, and we're going to go with kind of the more proven assets this season, the ones that can attack. But I think Neto's firmly on the watch list, and if they start banging, he's an easy player to bring in.
I have to say, I look at it, and you look at it at the fixtures, and then you look at the fixture difficulty, and you think, what's going wrong? What's going on here?
What's the disconnect?
Very strange. Anyway, okay, so that's the fixture difficulty. So we've done what's in front of us and then what's further in front. So as we've said, we've got the Compass show, the FPL Compass on Tuesday, where Nima and I will look at basically what's happened, and we've predicted the results for next week. So let's see whether we're right or not. Do challenge us. If you can challenge us with what you think's happening, we will give you a shout out. If anybody gets them all right, we'll shout you out for sure. Right, Gabe, it's over to you, and we are now going to talk about blank game week 29. And you went to bed at midnight last night and left me with a real confusing conundrum halfway through trying to work out doing some work stuff as well. We started coming up with XGOTC. Now, even the Mariner got confused here. So, would you like to enlighten us with respect to this, and then we will launch into the 4 matches, which we're going to look at?
Right on. So I apologies. I was working on the slideshow last night, and it came like 12:30, and my eyes were crossing. My head was banging down on the table, and I just emailed it all to you. I was like, hey, you figure this thing out. I'm sorry.
I was like, thanks, man.
What the hell? Anyway, yeah, I'm not very reliable.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. But please do explain what your thought process is behind this, what I think is a quite unique sort of statistic, which I think if we can get our heads around it in the show, I think the viewers will really love it.
So I hope so, because this is it's a new lens for me that using this stat, and I'm sure it'll be a new lens for many of our viewers as well. And it takes a while to get it, and hopefully through the examples we'll get to it. So the idea is XG, the stat XG is a pre-shot stat, right? So it takes a situation before the ball is kicked, and it, takes into account factors like angle to the goal, bodies in the way, so on and so forth, to create an expected goal stat, right? That's a pre-shot stat. Expected goals on target, and I'll get to the conceded in just a moment. This stat started as an XGOT, expected goals on target. So if we're thinking on target, then the shot has to have already have been taken. So this stat is a post-shot expected goal stat. So we have our pre-shot expected stat and our post-shot expected stat. What statisticians...
Can I stop you there? Can I just ask a question? I'd love to ask. Does that include things like blocked shots?
So yes. So if the ball is kicked and then before it's blocked, the moment it's kicked, there will be an XG, right? And then the block is the XG prevented. So for example, if Aina, who has the highest XG prevented in the league, blocks a shot from, say, Mahrez, or, well, they're on opposite sides, let's say blocks a shot from Sterling, right? Then the XG on target was 0.5 and it's blocked, then Aina would get a XG prevented of 0.5. So that's how these two stats relate.
Sorry about that. I just thought it would be worth asking that question because I'm sure everybody was going. I'm sure everybody was doing the same as me, going, how does this work?
So what they found out, statisticians that have been kind of treating this or dealing with this stat for a while, they found out that expected goals on target is actually not very good for predicting goals, right? Because that expected can be taken away. That's part of the reason. I don't understand entirely the whole reason for it, but what they did find is that it's very good for defensive action. So they made it expected goals on target conceded. Then it's a much better for a predictive model. It's not so good for predicting attacking.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and apply this now in the next, I don't know, 15 minutes, if we can try and cover your bits in 15 max.
Yeah.
So let's go. So look, let's start with Brighton against Newcastle.
Brighton against Newcastle. All right. Newcastle defense here is, obviously we know to target Newcastle defense. We've been talking about it. But the notable thing for Newcastle is they've conceded the most chances from the right side in the last 6 matches, and it's not even close. They've conceded 33 chances from their right side, and the next closest team is 27, I believe, in the last 6. Newcastle also concedes 22 chances from the middle of the field, which is good for 5th most in the last 6. But obviously pales in comparison to the chances conceded from the right. So in almost 2 more chances from the right than the middle in the last 6 game weeks. So that's good news for Brighton. But the bad news is that it doesn't exactly match up with what Brighton's trying to do offensively. Brighton gets into dangerous areas in the box on the right side. You can see that that dark orange there, which is Newcastle's stronger left side. There are a couple of areas there where Brighton could see some success, however. And it seems Trossard is the closest to that action. I've highlighted kind of Trossard's area of influence in the heat map on the right, where Brighton's chances created, and how that matches up with the chances conceded on the left side there for, on Brighton's left side, Newcastle's right side, and they're labeled there with the Trossard mark. Now, the one thing, the other box there that's blank, and next time I'll make the boxes different colors so they're easier to reference here. But there's the Brighton create chances. There's that dark orange there, and Newcastle concede chances just outside of the box. So there's a chance those chances there's an opportunity here for those chances conceded from Newcastle just outside the box to bleed into the box if Brighton play their game right, and that would be kind of over to Pascal Gross's side. But that side is also occupied, like Feltman's on that side. Lallana was on that side last match. So it's like a hodgepodge of players there, and it's a little bit unpredictable and a bit of a skeptical or a tenuous link there. But moving on to the stats.
Yeah, I mean, just before we go on to the stats game, I just want to ask you a question. Gross against Trossard.
Mm-hmm.
Gross is on every set piece pretty much.
Yeah.
Is that a consideration here?
I think it is. He's on every set piece, so he'll have those opportunities, but he won't have the opportunities in open play. So that's why I say like the matchup is it doesn't line up perfectly, for like the player. So if Gross, for example, had these opportunities, if it lined up the way it does for Trossard, if it lined up that way for Gross, and he's on set plays, then you have two kind of items lining up, and that's what you're kind of looking for. One is in a game, and like when the game gets going, it can go in so many different directions. To have one link is usually not enough. I usually try to find more than one.
Okay.
So I have a question on that, actually, just really quickly.
Sure.
Just thinking of Gross, so I really like him, but is there any fears that he could play wing back as well to take into consideration? So if Byrne isn't ready and then Veltman moves into a back three and then Gross kind of plays as a wing back, is that something we should worry about happening? Like, does that make Trossard more attractive in that sense, even though he doesn't have set pieces?
I think, did they not say Byrne was? I think they might have said Byrne was fit. I put a note that in the.
It sounds like he's fit.
Graham Potter reveals that Dan Byrne is expected to train and should be available.
I hate the word should. I hate the word should. It's a content writer's favorite word. This could happen. And then when they call you out, you say, I never said it was.
I know that. And as well, I think that could impact Veltman as well. Because Veltman might end up more could even end up in central defence like he did last week. So anyone who really wants Byrne to be fit.
I want Byrne to be fit for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the stats, Gabe. So let's try and keep this moving.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, here we go. This is we have Carl Darlow in here, and we'll see why in just a second here. So here. Let's start with the experiment of the XGOTC. So Newcastle have an XGOTC conceded over the season of 39.6. This means that they should have conceded almost 40 non-penalty goals based on the quality of shots that they have encountered. No, then that one thing I forgot to mention, the XGOTC stat and the XGP, the prevented stat, these are non-penalty. So penalty kicks are not included in these stats. Now, if we compare that to the non-penalty XG, 37.98, and an expected goals prevented of 0.2, right? So we have like Newcastle expected to concede between 38 and 40 goals this season, right? The 38 from the NPX XG, and then the 40 approximately from the XGOTC. So we have a delta, but they've actually conceded 42 non-penalty goals. So we have a delta of anywhere between 2 and 5 goals. And this is why we have Darlow's picture up here. Now, I think Darlow's a good keeper, a very good shot stopper, and he's a favorite of our friend Anand from FPL Escapades. But the thing is, he has a minus 5.6 expected goals prevented this season. So whereas 0 is neutral, where he stops all the shots that he should have stopped, he's allowed 5 more goals, more than 5 more goals than he should have allowed. And there's our delta between the 38 goals from the non-penalty XG to the 42 non-penalty goals conceded. The delta is those 5 from Darlow, which I found really interesting. That those numbers line up that way.
Okay. Is he going to play?
So and then that's the thing, right? Dubravka's back, and then that number, the expected goals prevented, the plus 0.2, that's Dubravka. So we go from minus 5.6 to plus 0.2. That's the difference between Darlow and Dubravka. So, but the thing is, notice that's neutral. That's going from gifting goals to neutral. So Newcastle will gift goals we'll gift opportunities because they're a bad defense, but Dubravka will not gift goals as a goalkeeper, right? They will basically they'll give you stuff, and then the expected should match up with the goals, basically for Newcastle.
Okay. And to be honest, just very quickly before I move off this, I actually looked at it about 5 times and thought you had Trossard on the screen, but there we go. then I noticed the badge. Just shows how bad a week I've had at work. Let's keep going. Let's have a quick look at West Ham against Arsenal from a West Ham attack perspective to start with.
West Ham attack. So Arsenal have only conceded 7 big chances over the last 6 matches. But it's interesting that despite the few big chances, the expected goals conceded, the XGC, is quite high for such few chances. And we see that in the XG shots map there, with those kind of the bigger circles, the green ones and the blue ones there. Also, this is something that you know, I sent you guys last night. Arsenal seems to have a vulnerability in their right corner. So that area, you know, where Cresswell's going to be like swinging crosses in from, seems to be an area to attack for Arsenal. So I think Cresswell could kind of feast on some crosses here from that area.
Oh my God, we've already started. I mean, I don't know whether we have a meltdown in the chat as well, but certainly you've already managed to sway Nima and I on this one. So understand this. It's
hard to ignore those bright orange dots there. Like, and honestly, I can't explain it. It's really weird. You don't really see this. Why so much and why so like buried in the corner? It could be, I mean, I'd have to research it a little bit more. A possible reason is the way Arsenal recover. And I don't know if Nima can shed some light on this. If, you know, I'm sure Arteta, you know, every defense is taught to get compact when they recover. But if they go compact, if they get compact heavy, or if Bellerin or Cedric Suarez are caught high up the field, then that could mean Granit Xhaka pinches into the back line, and that right flank just kind of opens up naturally because Bellerin or Suarez maybe can't get back the way Tierney gets back. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Nima has some insight.
Yeah, just on that. So I think I'd be looking very much to see who starts tonight in 2 hours time. I have a couple of theories. So firstly, like, Bellerin used to be one of my favorite players. I don't think since his kind of injury, he's quite the same player he was. But that aside, I actually think we might sell him this summer and we'll be looking for a replacement, but that's a different conversation. On that note, Cedric was kind of very frowned upon by a lot of the fan base, but actually I've noticed that every time Cedric plays at right back, we're just a lot more, there's a lot more chemistry in the team, I would say.
Yeah.
So my worry is that if Bellerin is the one starting at right back, that you're spot on, that they will expose us a bit. If Cedric is playing right back, I'm a bit more confident, not just from a defensive point of view, but actually that he has better chemistry with whoever the right winger is. So like Nicola Pepe, he's been here nearly 2 years and he's never looked good with Bellerin behind him because Bellerin just doesn't seem to do overlapping runs. Cedric overlaps and lets Pepe cut inside, and I think Pepe's most dangerous in the box. So why you would want Pepe on the wing doing like a Sane with 5 defenders on him is not going to work out for Pepe. So my theory is that it's really dependent on who starts, and I'm a bit nervous, to be frank, about this game. I think it could very easily be a draw. I'm kind of expecting a 1-1 kind of goal. I don't think either team is going to keep a clean sheet.
I agree. I'm expecting a couple goals. I would go for a 2-2 or something like that in this game. I do see a draw. I agree. They're very evenly matched, 2 teams. They have very similar vulnerabilities as well.
Guys, don't forget we did predict it on Tuesday, so we need to look back.
I said 2-1 then, but that was my bias. No, that was my bias. 1-1 is like the more realistic answer for the crowd here on live stream before they crucify me in the comments. But for me, I always think 2-1 Arsenal. So for Nehal's comment, I think if West Ham win, it will be a 1-0 win.
Okay.
I don't see West Ham beating us 2-1.
Gabe, can I move it to the stats?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Every time I see XGOTC, I think of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Expected Game of Thrones.
Well, absolutely. Well, you know, we've already had these analogies before now, shame and things like that.
That's right.
Antonio certainly doesn't normally meet getting the whole game. So
So the post shot XG, so XGOTC is also referred to as post shot XG. The post shot XG for Arsenal is 28.1 this season. That's good for fourth best in the league. Over the last 6, however, through a tough run of fixtures, right? Arsenal are 16th for this metric. So they've dropped from fourth best to 16th best in the last 6 game weeks. And you can see why. They've had difficult games, right? In the past 6 game weeks. Let's see what else. Arsenal, they have a non-penalty XG conceded of 30.16, which is only 2 more than their post-shot XG. And that too, we can find that in Leno's stats. Leno's expected goals prevented here is minus 2.6. Again, so the expected goals prevented stat is kind of covering the difference between the expected goals on target and non-penalty XG. That difference is covered by the expected goals prevented. We'll see it every time, and it's covered by the goalie there. So, I mean, to kind of state the obvious, Arsenal struggle in difficult fixture. Like here's the kind of equation that that has entered my mind, right? Arsenal struggle in difficult fixtures, right? Plus, they do not take much away from opposing attacks, given the expected goals prevented is negative. Plus, Antonio is a player that is accustomed to high XG in games. I think that equals fantasy goodness for Antonio in this game week. Like it's several. The XG matches up. The expected goals prevented works in his favor. And conceding chances from the middle of the field also works in his favor. That's three data points that work in Antonio's favor for this week.
Sounds good. And of course, Lingard could also be a decent matchup, right?
So yes, Lingard as well. I think he's top 12 in XG and chances created or big chances created, something like that, in the past 6 game weeks. Also, obviously playing in the middle of the field. He's quite clinical with his shooting as well. So I think that'll work to his favor. Lingard is a fine option this week as well.
Okay. Let's move to the attack. Let's move to the reverse side of this fixture. And then, of course, we do need Nima's input on this as well. Yeah. So let's talk about Arsenal attack against West Ham. And, of course, there we've got Aubameyang sat there who maybe needs to check his Google traffic going forwards. So, sorry, I think Siver from FPL Bang is particularly salty about this one. I did listen to his pod this week, and I
enjoyed that episode.
I thought it was very, very good indeed. But yeah, come on then, Gabe. Let's have 2 minutes on this one, and then we'll keep moving through.
All right, just really quickly here, we see, and I mentioned this last week as well when looking at West Ham's defense. West Ham concede a lot of shots, but those shots are low XG shots. Right, but if we look at the area of the field where West Ham are conceding, look at that top area inside the box. That's where Aubameyang loves to do his damage. So I really like Aubameyang there. I like Tierney in the like green area just outside of that as well, overlapping Aubameyang and getting to the end line. I think this could be a good matchup for Tierney and even Odegaard in the middle. Now I don't know yet what kind of role Odegaard will play. I think we need to see more from him before he becomes a serious option. Could be a nice punt on a free hit, but we need to see more from what the team expects from him.
I agree on that point. I've got some stats a little bit later on, which shows the last 6. And Odegaard really isn't there, but I think if I looked at the last couple, I think you would see that Odegaard's matchups and statistics are much better, but I just think there isn't enough data yet on Odegaard. But I think free hit wise, I think Odegaard could be a particularly good option. Nima, I think you may mention him.
Yeah, he's in one of my free hit teams.
I've
got 2 options on the kind of section when we go over free hit, so I won't go too much into Odegaard yet. But
Gabe, tell me about Fabianski. What sort of influence is he going to have on this game?
So Fabianski hold on, I'm bringing up my stats here. Sorry, Sorry.
You're all right. Have I jumped? Have I jumped
Yeah,
forward?
yeah, well, I did want to say that the fact that that West Ham have conceded the fifth most shots in the box over the last 6, they've conceded 51 shots, yet they have the 7th lowest expected goals conceded in that time, 6.66. I think that shows that Arsenal are going to have to be clinical with their finishes, and that combined with the fact that West Ham don't really concede much from their left side makes me think that Saka is not a great option. For those that are thinking Saka on a free hit or thinking to bring him in, I've been dying to bring Saka in for much of the season, but it's just never been the right time. It's always been things like this. So much prefer Aubameyang in this matchup. But sorry.
Just on that, I completely agree with you while you're looking. So I think Saka is a great pick, like long term for that stretch that we were looking at the metric for the next 6 weeks from game week 31 onwards. Like he's a great cheap option. But if you're looking for upside, like Aubameyang is the guy. He's in form. He's got his goals. He's back. He's got his shooting boots back on. It sounds like Arteta in another interview yesterday reiterated that the reason he'd said the line has been drawn is because Oba responded very well to the punishment and that it's all completely behind them. So if I kind of see Aubameyang start this game and play 60 minutes or sub off after 1 goal, I can see no reason why he wouldn't even be like one of my favorite differential captains of the week. Like he is the upside pick, I think, in this team.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to spoil something. I've got some news later on. Right. Carry on. Gabe, please now tell me about Fabianski.
We're going to get to Fabianski. So I got curious because there are some shots in the 6-yard box that West Ham concede, but even in the 6, they aren't high XG shots. And I was wondering, like, how can this possibly be? And my inkling was that it was potentially Fabianski. But what I learned was that West Ham have the 3rd most blocked shots in the last 6 matches. They have 27. So that's preventing a lot of the XG from coming through. And Fabianski has an XG prevented of let's see, at plus 0.9, I believe it is. So while it's not, he's not, yes, it's plus 0.9 in the last 6. While he's not like lighting up any charts for taking away XG, he's always difficult to get past, and we've seen it before. And sometimes his form will dip when the defensive form of the team dips. But overall, I think you can rely on Fabianski to make it very difficult for Arsenal, which underscores the point that they have to be clinical this game week.
Just on the comments, Baker says West Ham clean sheet.
West Ham clean sheet.
I can't remember what we said. I think I said that it would be. Did I say 2-1?
I think you may have said 1-1 and I said 2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, I'll have to check that. We're going to have to put these predictions into this section next time.
What I want to just add there, though, is that Fabianski, I have a feeling he's really going to want to turn up because it's his ex-club. You know, he used to play for Arsenal 10 years ago, 13 years ago. Back then, we used to call him Flapianski. It was before he became the great keeper he is now. Let's just put it this way. It was the tough times when we used to have to pick between Almunia in goal and Flapianski. It was a bad time in my life. Fabianski is a great keeper now. He's one of the best in the Prem. He's a great shot stopper, but he was not so good when he used to play for us.
No, he developed. That's for sure, 100%.
Yeah. He became much better when he left, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, boys. Right, let's now go to the last couple of fixtures. Thankfully, we've already got 4 to look through. But let's talk about the Villa and Spurs game from a Spurs perspective.
From a Spurs attacking perspective. Now, obviously, this game is very difficult to call because both teams have lost their main creative players. Son for Spurs and Grealish for Villa. But looking here at the areas where Villa concede and then the areas where Tottenham create, we see the kind of the focal point of the creativity for Spurs is on the right side. And the right side is from Son, right? And coincidentally enough, it matches up great against Villa because Villa concede much more from on the left side of the Spurs attack than Villa concede a lot more from the right side. But they don't have Son. So what's going to happen to that creativity? I don't see any other player that can step in there and create the way Son creates. So that matchup all of a sudden isn't as enticing. Now we've seen in recent game weeks how Bale has been on the rise, except for last game week, of course, when he rediscovered who he was. But if he can play kind of to the player that he isn't, sorry,
You're still salty about that Burnley game, are you?
I am. I'm gonna be salty about Burnley.
I'm going to toast Sean Dykes Barcelona there.
Sean Guardiola over there. So if Bale can get focused and he has this ability, right, and it's very unpredictable, but if he can find it, he can really exploit that area where I have Bale question mark, right, under Aston Villa's chances conceded. So I think that's where I would be looking for kind of a fantasy feast this weekend for Spurs. But Bale is so inconsistent that it would not be the direction that I would go in a transfer. But with so few games in a free hit, it's kind of a no-brainer because you're gonna have money left over even if you bring him in or not.
Yeah, but one of the challenges I think we're going to have, and I mean, I'll tell you my challenge, right? I own Martinez and I own Areola. Now, I don't know any tougher decision for the entire week about who to start. And I've got this little wall sat here, which is a little claret wall. And I'm saying that Martinez is a bit of a claret wall, isn't he? And is he going to have a good day?
Look at that. Like, Martinez leads. I mean, not by far. He leads in expected goals prevented. He has 5.6 over the season. But what's truly impressive, he's prevented 3.7 goals in just the last 6 matches. That's bonkers. Almost 4 goals that he's prevented in 6 is absolutely ridiculous. Now you put Martinez up against a team that has just lost their primary creative player, or at least in the last 6. He's, in the past, Kane has played that role. So there are other players they could change what they do.
Yeah.
But with the loss of Son and Martinez just not taking XG away from opponents like candy from a baby, I would be very hard pressed to have high expectations for Spurs, including Kane. And I know Kane is going to be very highly captained, and it's the Martinez factor that I think provides an opportunity for all FPL managers to differentiate in their captain selections this week.
Yeah, and look, I think I've gone 1-0 to Spurs. My guess, I think, from my fixture difficulty, should we say, idea as to who was going to what the score was going to be. Let's see. I don't know. I just think that Martinez could be the sort of person who we end up throwing things at the TV this weekend.
Well,
when he gets a 12-pointer with 9 saves, 3 bonus, 1-0.
Areola. So let's come on to Areola now, and let's go to another wall because we've got a white wall now. So let's now talk about Fulham against Leeds from a Leeds attacking perspective. And of course, we've got Rafinha there, so it'd be a miss to ignore him. But Gabe, just very quickly on this game.
Yeah, so I mean, really, we spoke last week about the chances that Fulham concede from their left side, and how few chances. Just the stark contrast with how few chances they concede from the middle and the right, and that's the main thing. They don't concede an obscene amount of chances from the left, but compared to the other two sides, it's just the obvious place to attack them. Yeah. And City discovered that in the second half, right? So I guess So somebody showed Pep the FPL matchups from last week and was like, "Hey, look, check it out."
Who needs Stats Bomb? Who needs Stats Bomb when you've got FPLMariner and FPLlens and and our matchups, right?
All you need is net that haul and FPL Compass.
Trademark it, mate. Again, mentioned, I mean, we've already done the Rafinha and Fulham with respect to the right-hand side and the chances they're going to concede. Let's talk about Areola again, because again, look, another very, very good number there for preventing goals.
He's an XG thief, just like Martinez is. These are crooks. These goalkeepers. For those of us that love watching attacking football, but it's also exciting. And I have to say, I've followed Areola for quite some time. I've never seen him play as well as he's playing this season. I never rated him as a good keeper until he came to Fulham. So really, kudos to him. But it's the entire Fulham team. So Fulham are animals at preventing XG. Fulham are the team where they rob XG from everybody.
They're XG Robin Hoods.
Oh, nice! That's well done. I like that. They're XG Robin Hoods. If just to look at it, the top 6 XG prevented players in the game this season, all 6 of them are Fulham players, and I'll read them off here. We have Aina with plus 7.9 XG prevented. Tosin Adarabioyo, the same thing.
I thought you were going to try and say his name. I was just cupping my ear to see if you were going to say it.
I can't resist myself. I have to try.
Don't worry. We're not the only people. I listened to Bangers podcast and they got it wrong as well.
We have Bobby Reed at plus 7.2 XG prevented. Anderson at plus 6.5. Lookman at plus 6.4 XG prevented. Lookman. And then Robinson at Anthony Robinson at plus 6.3. All 6 of those are the top 6 in the league for XG prevented. And that's what Fulham do. That they just suck the life out of football for any team that comes and tries to attack them, except on their left side.
So there's another bottle going through my Samsung TV on whenever they play then, right?
What's that?
There's another bottle going through my Samsung TV whenever they play this weekend. I think
for sure. That's probably why you're drinking all the bottles because they're empty when you throw them.
Mrs. Mariner been looking at me thinking, "What the hell are you ranting at now?" A little bit. When I captained Rafinha, did I just share that? Oops, never mind.
Loose lips.
Let's go. Let's keep going. Okay, so that's that. Nima, anything you want to say about it? But I'll tell you what I'm going to do before I say it. I'm going to bring this slide up because I think this is a really nice. This sort of like summarizes a number of players, and this puts all their stats on there. So, I mean, you can see from the graph from the table there, and we'll leave it up for everybody who actually comes out top for the various things. Let me cover fixture difficulties, and then Nima, and if you want to just cover the rest, because I think it's pretty graphic. I think everybody can see what's going on. Fixture difficulty, Rafinha comes out top. That's for 29 and 30. Now, what I've done is I've ignored 33. So 31, 32, 34, and 35, Arsenal. Now start to come out top, but they're pretty neutral. And blank game week 33, which we cannot ignore, whether we like it or not. If we don't have that free hit left, if we've not used it, we've still got to think about it. Look at Trossard's fixture difficulty, plus 3.6. I mean, that's Manchester City-esque.
That's very exciting, isn't it?
That's huge. It's enormous. Now, I'm not saying they're going to actually achieve that, but with respect to the overall result, but look, and of course we've got Bale and Lookman who blank as well. So I think that's the simpler way to look at it from a fixture difficulty. And of course, people just want to pause it and just review it. I think that's the way to do. But mate, what do you see on this which stands out to you?
So I think definitely the Rafinha over the next 2 for me, like that is pretty big. Like he is, as you accidentally let slip, a great differential captain choice, I think, this week. For those who want to go against the shield pick of Kane, I actually started out with Rafinha as my captain before I chose Kane out of pure fear because I thought my cup opponent might pick Kane too. So I tried to match him. But the kind of game week 30 matchup, that is amazing. Like against Sheffield, I think Leeds will have a field day. The kind of, it's interesting that Arsenal's like positive, but not that positive, like kind of neutral almost for the 31, 32, 34, 55. I can definitely see myself getting 2 Arsenal players on a wild card, so a defender and an attacker. I think I need to see more of Odegaard to consider him as a long-term pick, but 5.9 million, that's pretty exciting. Like, that's not a bad price point. There's not many options in that kind of category. I love Brighton and their fixture in 33. I'm not sure that would make me lean towards Trossard, though, I'd be honest. I'd be looking more at actually like the defensive options. So I'd be looking at like a Veltman who's quite cheap, play him this week, bench him all the way till 33, and then have another player again then. Aubameyang, though, there's something about him that just screams out to me, because for like nearly 10 years, he's in like the top 5 goal scorers in all of Europe, if not the world. And he had a little bit of a blip at the start of this year, and people were very quick to jump on him and say he'd done an Ozil and he'd signed a contract and he'd given up. The reality is, Oba was performing for years when Arsenal were at their worst, when there was a car crash of a team, there was managerial change, and he was still winning golden boots and competing with the top of the top in the Prem. He had a little bit of a off start to the season and had some health and personal issues with his mum nearly passing away. But people were quick to jump the gun on Oba. I think Oba is well and truly back, and he is going to be vital for us in this final quarter of the season. So for me, I would actually prefer Oba over a lot of the premium picks in my midfield for the last like 7 or 8 game weeks. Like, he's almost like a must in my eyes, and his low ownership, that excites me a bit towards the end of the season, I'd say.
I mean, he's clearly chalk and cheese to Odegaard, both with price and stats. But I think that lays the stats quite bare, really. You know, Odegaard.
One thing I want to say about Aubameyang is I think these stats, and I think he has only 4 of 11 shots on target, or he had 11 shots in the box in the last 6, and only 4 shots on target. But if we remember back to the beginning of last season, Aubameyang's kind of his signature was how clinical he was. Remember, he was not getting many chances at the beginning of last season, but he was burying those chances. And then he dropped in form and he wasn't as clinical. I think these stats are pointing to a resurgent Aubameyang, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finds his clinical boots in the coming game weeks. And if he does, I agree with Nima. He's an absolute must.
And I think I like the fact that he's being put into centre forward again. So he's not being played on the wing. He's actually being played as a central striker. And the fact that there's then Odegaard coming into form behind him, the Hale End kind of boys from the academy, Saka and Smith-Rowe killing it, Tierney looking like a captain. Definitely he should be club captain. There's a lot to like there. Partey looks like he's finally fit. He's only started maybe 11 games. I'm enjoying seeing his kind of quick feet, his transition with the ball. Like, there's a lot that was missing, I think, when Aubameyang was struggling. And as you say, he's normally known for being clinical. And that's what I was kind of alluding to about he was actually performing really well when we were really bad and creating no chances. Now we're actually creating chances. I think over the last few weeks, on away matches anyway, we're like in the top 3 or 4 for XG created. So actually, you know, away match against West Ham, Aubameyang, just saying.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I have to say, he really is attractive from the point of view of bringing in for FPL for the rest of the season. I mean, at this point, look, I'm going to move on from this slide, but I'm just going to say one thing. I've been asked a couple of times as to whether people would like us to turn this into a podcast. Now, if we were to turn this into a podcast, we've got to go through all these numbers. And I think this is the difference. I think we're quite visual, but I would really welcome the comments in the side about it, because I'm still a little bit undecided about what we do going forward. But please do give us some comments about it, because clearly now I would now go through all these numbers, or a lot of these numbers, and we're not going to do that because we've just been leaving them on the screen for you for about the last 5 minutes while Nima's been giving us his view on Arsenal. But no, I agree. You know, I have to say, I really do like Aubameyang. I think he's coming into my side. I couldn't transfer him in now, live on TV, live on
I was going to do that while I got drunk.
On YouTube, but we can't.
We can't do that. Not when you were 2 hours away from watching him maybe play or get injured.
It's just what happens, exactly. So, you know, and then we'll end up like Lee off FPL family, won't we? Well, I'm sorry, what did I just say?
Well, I don't think I can talk about him. He blocked me. So.
I've drank too much now. Right, come on. Right, let's move. We're about half an hour behind schedule. We're doing really well as usual. Right, okay. Let's now have a look at the other sections. So the first one to look at is Soucek Watch. I've changed the logo look.
Ah, there it is. Beautiful.
Do you like it?
It's a little too much mustard in the potato salad for my liking, but I'll take it. It looks like egg salad.
Look, it's no good for me because I'm fat anyway. So I can't eat potato salad. It's no good. I can drink wine, but I can't. I actually said to the wife today, I said, stop making me cake. I'd sooner drink wine. Anyway, that's that point.
Is she back making wine?
Yeah, absolutely. I said there's less calories in wine than cake. Right, next. Soucek Watch. Do you know what? I didn't even look back, Gabe. Do you know what? I completely forgot to look back at last week's tips, apart from my own, which was Deanne, which he was shit. So, right, that's that one out of the way.
Moving on.
Pick. Can you remember?
No. Oh.
No, let's move on. Right. So, I don't think we did very well. Of interest this week, Arsenal against West Ham, Leeds against Fulham, Brighton against Newcastle, and Spurs against Villa. Okay, they are the ones which I've picked out. So, and there is a couple of really tasty ones. Leeds against Fulham +4, Brighton against Newcastle +4. They're quite tasty in this match. Now, of course, we know how difficult it is to predict headers, but we have to because it's a bit of fun. So, who are we going to predict? I'll tell you what I'm going to predict. There we go. It's Lewis Dunk.
Yep.
I really fancy Lewis Dunk to get a header this week. 17 headed attempts, 10 on target. Second for all defenders. And he's got a matchup of +4, as I've said. And Newcastle have conceded 74 headers this season. So why not? I would go as far as saying that, and we'll come on to this, you could do. Could we be talking about? Could we go in Duffy-esque here?
Don't make the argument to captain him, please.
I've had a glass of wine. I can say anything. I'm the host. Gabe, give me your Soucek Watch this week.
I don't remember who I picked.
Who did you pick?
I have no idea.
Oh, Christ. Isn't this mountain air? Can you not remember what you're in the mountains? Can you not forget? You're short of oxygen or something.
Yeah, there's not much oxygen up here. I was up late. I got other excuses too.
I'll come back to me on that. Nima.
Right.
On the Soucek Watch this week, I'm definitely looking at Dunk for me. Like, it's just like he is like my like. If I wasn't looking at Rafinha as a differential captain, Dunk is who I'd be captaining. A lot of metrics have Dunk very high up. He's actually the 4th highest predicted point scorer on the Hub predicted points tool.
Is Cooper fit? Is Cooper fit? Anybody? Can anyone tell whether Cooper's fit?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
If Cooper's fit, if he doesn't score soon from a header.
Oh my God! Like the amount of chances that he missed when Rafinha handed them to him on a play.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I'm making. And look at that matchup. And I'll tell you who else might be a little outside shout and that's Tosin.
Yeah,
well.
That's my pick.
A goal, actually.
That's my pick, Tosin. That was my pick.
Right. Okay. Nehal's saying Cooper's out. That's a shame. So that might actually dampen that. But that could be Bamford then. So, but I do think that there's a chance for Bamford, Tosin. I think there could be a headed goal in the Fulham Leeds game. There we go. That's the other prediction.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And Little Prince pick, Gabe.
Little Prince pick. Well, it has to be Rafinha.
Oh, listen at it. We need this ringtone.
So in Portuguese in Brazil, the R is pronounced like an H.
Right.
So it's Rafinha. And I mean, we talked about it, right? This guy has been due for so long. But the FPL community has been kind of like rooting for Rafinha to finally explode, right? But he's got Shitford trying to put shots away, but who can't? He's got Cooper who taken 15 shots and 0 on target. But this week I just like him to exploit Fulham's left side, not pass the ball to anyone, create chances for himself, and get the goals himself. So Rafinha, Little Prince pick of the week.
when you woke up this morning, I did tell you that I'd actually stolen this for my pick for Fantasy Football Titans captain selection this week, because quite frankly, I didn't have time to do it, so I just stole yours.
I love it. We're in it together.
You will get the credit. You will get the credit, mate. Anyway, we're miles behind, but who cares? I don't care. We're having a great time, and I'm enjoying my glass of wine as well. Nima.
So this is an exciting
free hit.
Yeah, so on this, I guess my first comment would be that whether you need to free hit or not is a big question. So obviously we have the blank game week in 33. We have this one in 29. I like to kind of attack what we know. For me, if you can field like a minimum of 7 players, I would probably not use the free hit. I don't really see much upside in the games this week. I see a lot of tight games. The good teams are all playing each other on Sunday. The other matchups that should be appealing, like Leeds versus Fulham and Brighton versus Southampton, they're kind of teams that we've seen disappoint us many times before. Everyone who bench boost Leeds assets in game week 19, like me for the double, suffered. Everyone who bench boost Leeds assets in double game week 26 suffered. So every single time we've called on these players from these teams, they have just completely disappointed us. So I wouldn't necessarily be free hitting as a high upside week unless you're really struggling to field players.
Nima, can I ask you one question? At what point do you consider holding your free hit? If you had X players, and you
I would say 7.
Right. Okay. 7.
Yeah, 7 is the number I would think. I would probably go to 8 with a hit. If you can get to 7 on free transfers, I think there's a lot more upside in 33 because you're probably going to have City and Spurs players in your team. There's Southampton and Fulham who also blank. And there's also some nice matchups that week. So you could really target triple ups on teams like Man United and Leicester, who you might not normally have that many of their players. Yeah, Liverpool as well. So there's some good options there. For this week, though, what I would say is this is my first free hit draft I picked. It's a little bit outrageous because most people would pick Messi Lingard over Odegaard for just 0.3 million more. My theory was that I wouldn't want 2 West Ham attackers. So kind of having both Antonio and Lingard is a bit much. I prefer Antonio over Lingard personally. So the other way I like to think about free hit is that you want to have the core players that the non-free hit players have. So most of us will have the likes of a Martinez, and we will have 2 or 3 Leeds players. We will have a Kane. We will have a Bamford, maybe a Rafinha in Dallas. So a lot of these players, they're already in people's teams anyway. So again, like if you're free hitting, where are you really going to differentiate to rise rank or gain points? So that's why I picked the likes of kind of Bale, Trossard, Odegaard, Antonio, Dunk, Sanchez in goal. These are players that I don't think people like myself who are navigating with free transfers are easily going to get. So if you are going to free hit this week, I would be looking at some slightly stranger picks. I think once you've got that core player mix right, with also ones that people like me would never consider because we're not on free hit, your next question is kind of, do you think Villa is that appealing? So like a lot of people like me, I have Watkins. He's not been looking so good without Grealish. Whether Grealish is back or not, I don't know. I prefer Antonio over Watkins for that reason. I can see Antonio scoring 2 or 3 against Arsenal on a bad day for Arsenal.
Mate, if I owned Watkins, I would take him out of my free hit.
Oh my God. Crossbar challenge Watkins. 7 crossbars this season. No one else has hit that many crossbars, that's for sure. The other thing I'll say is, how do you even spend the money on free hit? So I had about 5 million in the bank on this draft. The only reason Martinez is here is to be my sub goalkeeper instead of a 3.9 million keeper, but I wouldn't play him. I think the other thing is if you're on free hit, I like the idea of not having too many players in one match. So I've tried to kind of target a variety. So someone like Tierney, he's here, but he would be on my bench. I'd actually be starting Dunk, Dallas, and probably Cresswell, I think. I'd then have Tierney, Target, and Martinez all on the bench. And out of the kind of the attackers, I think I would bench Odegaard. So it's kind of like, it's tough. I've put these picks in, but how do you even start them? So for me, it's like, once you really look at a free hit, what are you really going to get? 2, 3 different players? Do you think the likes of Trossard and, Sanchez in goal, those 2, are they going to outscore non-free hit teams that much to make the free hit worth it? I don't think so.
No, you're right. And again, I'll refer back to FPL Banger because I love their pod. I think it's one of the best pods out there, actually. And Sam on FPL Banger said that he thought 20 points above the average would be a very, very good result for a free hit side. And the average would be around 20 something without. I tend to agree with him. I think it'll be a relatively, I might be wrong, but I tend to think it'll be relatively low scoring game week. And I think you're right by going for some differentials. I'd even throw in a Fulham differential for defence, actually, just in case.
Yeah, so I have Areola and goal in my personal team, but just to bank against the free Leeds players I also have.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I'm making. But what we can't ever forget here with these free hits is that we're playing against each other. And that's why I think the scores are going to be relatively low. You've got a second team as well, Nima.
Yeah, so if we have a look, I actually have Maya in attack on the second team, if we go through. Having said that, this team has about 7 million in the bank. So on second thoughts, I would probably just change Maya to Lacazette. I don't know if Lacazette will start yet, but my theory was that the choice on a free hit is kind of Lingard plus Lacazette versus Antonio and Odegaard. That was kind of my 50-50 split. That's why I have two teams. I would definitely be tripling up on Brighton. I would want two defenders. I like Sanchez in goal. And Trossard is my favorite pick on their attack. Bale I've kind of got here just because it would be nice to have double Spurs attack. But, you know, it's like it doesn't really appeal to me. Like, I don't see anything screaming out to me with just 4 fixtures and 8 teams. Like, I would be saving the free hit if you can get to 7. But these are like my 2 drafts to give you some ideas of players that I really like and matchups that I would target. But again, who do you even bench on these?
I mean, Gabe, I don't know what you think, but I'm looking at this and it doesn't fill me full of joy.
That's because we're in game week 29. It's not meant for it to be joyful. I don't think this game week.
It's just to survive, right? Like you're free hitting to survive, not because it's going to be a massive upside.
Exactly. No, and I think
the free hit.
Go ahead.
But the free hit should be an upside. The idea of a free hit chip is it should be an upside, not a survival move. And that's why I don't know. I'm a bit torn. If I had my free hit, which I don't, whether I would free hit or not, I look at it and I just see a lot of very neutral matchups that I can't quite work out which way they're going to go. And Brighton and Newcastle. And I don't trust that either. I just you know, as much as I'm a numbers man, I worry about another Duffy-esque disaster like we've had before.
For sure. And we have a question from Nitesh that's a really good point. I think he's right. Like, that's why I don't have any Villa attackers in my midfielder attack on either free hit drafts. I have Watkins because he's just in my personal team, but I don't want him. He's asking about Reguilon. So if Reguilon's rested tonight, could he actually be a better pick than Cresswell and Tierney? So I like that. I think on a free hit, having someone like Reguilon, Kane and Bale maybe, or even Moura instead of Bale, that's quite exciting. So if you are definitely free hitting, I think looking for picks like Reguilon is exciting. Equally though, like I struggle to spend the money. So why not just spend loads of money on Cresswell, even if you didn't get him for cheap? Like just have him for the week. And I think, Gabe, you said that the side which Cresswell operates is kind of the side where Arsenal concede a lot. So that's looking kind of good for him assisting Antonio in the matchup, I think.
I think one thing we haven't got here is the ownerships. And I think what would be very good would be to look at the ownerships there. But look, I mean, the players who stand out to me here, if you're free hitting, you want to make a difference with that free hit. Don't just go with the Joneses. Make a difference. Maja. Am I pronouncing it right? I think, there we go. Thanks, Gabe.
Sorry.
I'm from Grimsby, let me off.
Hey, I just learned it from Nima.
All right, great. But look, I think he's. I mean, I don't know whether I would have him in for the rest of the season, but I think as a free hit against Leeds, why not? Why not? I think he's a good call for a free hit team. I really do.
So on that note, what do you think of like if we take Nitesh's kind of feedback? What about like a back three of kind of Dunk, Cresswell, Regulion, and then that's it? So we don't have any other defenders.
I would go with Dallas. I would go with Dallas.
You would still pick Dallas, okay?
Yeah, I would pick Dallas. I've just got a funny feeling that he might get something.
So if I could just from a tactical perspective, to address Nahal's question here, with Son out, I mean, Sevilla used Reguilon as a wing back, and he would bomb up that wing. That's what he's really good at. So maybe with Son out, that'll open up the space for Reguilon to get in there and provide the crosses and services necessary for Kane to knock in a header or something like that. So I don't mind the call on the for a free hit. I wouldn't bring Reguilon in as a transfer though.
No.
Okay, that's good to know actually. I like that. So he would basically take over Son's chance creation duties, because I think what we've seen since Bale came into the team is that kind of like Son has very much kind of fallen back towards chance creation as opposed to being in the goal scoring opportunities himself.
Yeah. And the other thing to note, like in that game, is I have flashes of Bale running down the left side for Real Madrid in the Champions League, right, helping us win whatever number title that was. Humble brag there. But so Bale, I wondered if Bale, he doesn't like being on the left, but I wonder if Mourinho could put him on the left and to take Son's place, and then use I don't know, put someone else on the right. Like maybe Lucas goes to the right, and Ndombele slides back in where Mora was playing. Who knows?
Interesting. I mean, look, from my perspective, I think it's always good to do a free hit. And what we'll do in 31 is we'll do a wild card as well, because I think we need to do a wild card in 31, and then we'll do another free hit in 33. Thank you, Nima. I think obviously we've had a few come through, but I think generally speaking, we're all going. A lot of free hits are going in a similar vein. I think the reason is there aren't a lot of options.
Yeah, I guess if you're really brave, I would finalize by saying you could just get triple Brighton and really go for it. If you want maximum upside on a free hit, I'd maybe actually avoid Trossard and just go for triple defense and pray for that clean sheet, pray for the FPL gods.
I mean, it's the best matchup, and we should be talking about the best matchup, really. But I think what we've always got to remember is that statistics are statistics. But at the end of the day, we've got the eye test and we've got everything else and what we see in front of us. And sometimes, no matter what the numbers show, it maybe isn't that case. Ask FPL Swing, I'm afraid. But yeah, poor fella. Although he did get returned last week, bless him. Right, let's move on. So now let's go to the captaincy. So what happened last week? Well, not a lot. We didn't do very well. There was a lot of blanks, let's face it. And the metric, the metric has chalked to success. And the reason the metric's chalked to success is because the first playing player out of the metric was Vardy. And that's the way I look at it. I think we can't talk about captains and vice captains. We're talking about who is most likely, if they play, who is most likely to return. And I think that's the simplest way of looking at it. People can criticize me all they want, but look, we put it in as that. So that's the way we've been doing it all the way through the season. So we'll stick with it. So Vardy's vice captaincy worked very, very well indeed for the metric in a sense. Obviously, the cat's in disgrace again after picking Bruno. We'll see who he picks this week. But no, look, Kane was unlucky. Bruno was unlucky. Didn't really see an awful. I didn't see much of that Chelsea game. I can't really comment much about my differential captain. Did Neiman? Gabe? Did you see that game? I didn't.
I didn't watch much of that game. No.
But I didn't see much on it at all. But look, let's face it, I was a bit disappointed. I thought he'd do okay. Let's go on. Let's crack on. So let's look at the metric against the Mariner. And this is really good. And I think we're getting to a point now where this metric is starting to challenge FPL in general.
Yeah. It's breaking FPL. It's like
Can you? I'm going to put a challenge out. Can you beat the metric between now to the end of the season? Come on, give it a go. I don't know how it's doing. It's doing fairly well. Look at it. It's had one blank in the last since game week 19. It's got a 78% hit rate now, 16.4 points a week, projected 622. It's killing me. It's killing me because I'm not listening to it. Although, look, I don't have other players. Of course, we don't always have. The metric has the opportunity to pick players from the whole team, from the whole or every player, without having to think about transferring players in, of course. But what do you think, Gabe? It's doing pretty well, right?
I don't know why I don't just follow it blindly at this point. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculously well. I think the metric is going to score maybe over 150 points more than my captain this year. 150. That would put me like in the top 1K if I had followed the metric from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, we have to put it in context. As I said, we don't have it doesn't need to make transfers. It doesn't think about anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, but it shows that generally speaking, if you stick to a player over 8 million, you're okay. Right. Which is pretty much what it's doing. We have of course let one or two players in, like Gundogan, among others.
That worked out okay.
We couldn't ignore him, but but at the same time, it's absolutely torn it up.
Yeah.
And again, what I'll do in the next Compass show is, when that comes, and might do it in the international. It's in the international break, of course. But when we do the next Compass show, I'm going to do a bit more on the metrics. I think people might enjoy actually just listening to how the metric works. I think that might not be a bad idea. But yeah, it's killing me. So yeah, what to say? I'm probably the cat's killing me as well. Well, he is anyway. But let's move on to this furry piece of crap, because who is driving me crazy these days. But what we have to do is we have to look about the reason, the way the Catpick works is it works on a perspective of who does the community like. So what I did, I gave a Spurs player, an Arsenal player, a Leeds player, and a West Ham player. I thought, well, what else can I do? I'm really stuck. I don't know what to do. Gabe and I were talking about it for ages. We couldn't decide what to do, so we went with this. We picked the best one out of those. They all came into the final, and Kane killed it. Hardly surprising. Nearly 60%. Worries the shit out of me because, of course, where I'm ranked, I think it'd be very, very high. I think the EO is going to be very high. We're really into Hibbo on for the EO tonight.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, for me, where I'm ranked, 300 and some K, this is exciting because this for me spells opportunity.
No, I agree. And for me, and as much as I want to captain Rafinha, the thing which worries me is that poll.
Yep.
That poll worries me where I'm sat at 3.1, I think it is. I thought it was just under 3, but it's not. It's 3.1. So let's see what this idiot decides to pick this week. I really can't believe Julian's changing the word. It's getting worse. Even look, Nima's even taking his headphones off.
No doubt.
I thought twice.
I'm right for it. Nima's happy.
Oh my. Nima, he's gone with Aubameyang.
I'm ready. I can't captain Rafinha just because I have 4 players in that match and it's Friday night. So Gandhi always says never captain the early kickoff.
Well, there is that, but the cat doesn't care. So no, he's gone for Aubameyang. And
I like a Sunday captain, end of the week, optimism like Salah last week.
Hang on. How long after the show, after the game, did we do that Compass show?
I think it must have been like an hour after the game ended or something, 90 minutes after the football match ended. I was still very bitter about Salah that time.
I was so pissed off.
I thought I was going to halve my rank. I
thought I was going to be at 1K. I thought I was going to tell you I was at 1K. I looked at live FPL and went, well, 1K, here we come.
Oh, on the what if machine, right? You put in like a Salah 20-point haul and it said you're going to go into triple-digit finish.
Salah delivered me a plague of locusts, as usual. Nothing new this season. 5 times. I think, actually, let me look back at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blanks, Salah, for me this year.
Wow.
5.
Troll. No troll.
He is. He's a troll. Right, okay. Captain Metric, who? Look at that.
Woo. I'm going with the metric.
Can you believe it?
Rafinha
tops the Captain Metric. Now, it's slim pickings. I have highlighted players who wouldn't even normally be on the metric because of their rotation risk. Bale, Lacazette and Aubameyang all fail the 30% limit for the last 3 weeks. And it does not include, and I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't include defenders from non-premium teams. Right? And I'm being honest with you, if you put those in, this would shake it up completely.
Yeah.
It would really shake this metric up completely. The flags on Son, there's flags on, obviously Grealish is out. There's flags on Bamford. Villa, it just shows with Grealish, it doesn't matter whether Grealish is playing or not, they're not a good option for captaincy this week. So forget that one. Forget the Carpenter. Mr. Watkins, he's right down, flat down at the bottom. I mean, look, if we were to treat the metric exactly as we should treat the metric, it's Kane. If we take out these non-premiums, it's Kane. But I think we probably owe Rafinha a chance here.
I mean, it also, like, if you take out the non-premiums, there are so few matches this weekend that it limits the pool so much. It basically only leaves you with Kane or Aubameyang. And Aubameyang doesn't even...
Basically, it does. And if that's the case, look, if you are shield... Let's look at it this way. We could put a shield on and we could put a sword on. The shield pick is Kane easily. Easily the shield pick. The sword pick is someone like Rafinha or Lingard, in my perspective.
Or I think Nima would say even Antonio over Lingard as a...
Yeah, I'd probably captain Antonio over Lingard. I think Antonio.
I think I would as well.
I like something about him. Like the Arsenal centre backs normally get bullied a lot.
Metric doesn't like him. Metric doesn't like Antonio over Lingard, but bear in mind there is one difference, and that is the number of matches that Lingard's played. So that percentage,
okay.
Do you see what I mean? This is where the metric, if you're treating one player different to another, then it starts to throw it out. So is Antonio better? Possibly. Is Lingard worse? Possibly. But look, at the end of the day, this is just a number. We can't ever express more that, this... We're going to go with Rafinha this week.
Yeah.
We're going to go with it. We've discussed it. We're going to go with it. I could be really boring and just say, do you know what? I could take Rafinha. I could take Bale out. I could take Bamford out because he's flagged. And the captain's Kane. Let's test the metric this week. Let's see if it really gets it. Let's challenge it a bit. Let's see how it goes. So, so there we go. Differential captain now, very quickly. Who is it? It is. I think you can probably spot him behind, can you? Look at that. It's Lewis Dunk. And I dare not do it. I may bring him in, but I won't captain him. I just dare do it. As I say, it's a bit of a Duffy special. 4 goals. His numbers are great. 21 shots. I've dragged these numbers off the official site. 17 inside the box, 17 headed attempts, 10 shots on target, second for a defender. And the other thing is that we're talking about Newcastle being pretty poor at conceding headers. Nihal's saying he'll take penalties as well and free kicks. That's if the referee lets him score. And of course, I put a differential poll out as well. Dunk, 45%, nearly 46%. Cresswell, 17%. Tierney, 17%. Dallas, 20%. Dunk won that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, because if you looked at Cresswell's numbers, he is flying miles under the radar. Miles and miles and miles. Everyone says Antonio is fixture proof. I'm going to question, is Cresswell fixture proof? I don't know. I'm going to hold my...
He has been in the last 6 weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, if you look, remember the metric works over 12, and I'll tell you, he was high.
Yep.
If I had put him in, he was very high.
Yep.
He was very high. So that's where we are. It says 28. There we go. There's my mistake of the week. Kane, this is last week. Never mind. Move on. Right. Okay. I told you boys to check this. You didn't bloody check it.
It was midnight for me.
I didn't tell you to check it. I told you there'd be a bloody mistake in there somewhere. There was a mistake in there last week as well.
I have like one eye, 12:30 at night. You're asking me to review.
God's sake. I don't care anymore. It's getting late. I'm half pissed. No. Yeah. But look, that's the show. We've gone on far too long as usual, but let's take some questions. I'm not sure. I've got the first question which I want to ask, which has been brought in, and then we'll open it up to everybody else, and let's see what's there. But I think the first thing I will say is we've still gone on a long time, but I just think the content is just so incredible. We're struggling to thin this down, but at least we're talking about matchups now.
Yeah, we are struggling to whittle it down. Even when there's just four matches, we're on an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, but the reason we're doing that is because it's a lot to talk about, I think, but especially particularly with the fixture difficulty.
Guys, just to tell you the lineup, Aubameyang is playing centre forward right now in the lineup.
Oh, God.
Nice.
Kieran Tierney, Hector Bellerin. That looks good for Cedric Suarez on the weekend.
Don't look very good for my thought of bringing Aubameyang in for my transfer, though.
Let's pray for the early sub. Oba Brace subbed halftime.
I mean, I don't think it matters. Does it really matter that much? He didn't play last weekend. There's an international break coming up. I think he's going to play all game today, and he'll play all game this weekend.
He's fit enough, right? Like
he's fine. Yeah,
exactly. He's a professional. I don't know about that after finding out about his timekeeping. But...
Except for the AM PM on his alarm, I guess he's got those mixed.
Let's quickly just deal with these questions. I mean, I've not checked Twitter, I'll have to say, but the one question which came in from Nitesh, our friend, your top three non-Brighton defenders for game week 29, since it's hard to predict clean sheets. Nima, top three.
Top three?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I think for me, it's still just Dunk just screams out to me. Like he's just the guy. Like the fact that he's
non-Bright.
Oh yeah, non-Bright. So yeah, I'm just. I think I can't not. I want to captain the guy, so to not include him is tough. But I think for me, Tierney, I really like as a long-term pick. Like maybe not as a free hit choice, but there's still a part of me that might buy him over Dunk, just so that I have him for the next end of the season period. So I think Tierney, I do like the. I'm going to try and say it, so correct me if I'm wrong. The Regulion. No, Regulion.
Regulon. The U is silent.
The Regulon.
Regulon. Regulon. There you go.
Regulon. Okay, so the Regulon. I like the Regulon pick.
I'm totally with a glass hand.
So I like Tierney. I like Regulon. I like and I like Cresswell. I think I would pick those three.
Okay. I would add Dallas.
There's a part of me that feels like he's in everyone's teams anyway. So like,
Yeah.
with my free hit hat on, I would be going for someone people can't get. But yeah.
I mean, again, I just think from my perspective, I don't own Dallas at the moment. I'm prepared to bring him in for 2 weeks, then ship him out again.
It is a good game week 30 fixture.
Yeah, I just think bring him in and ship him out. Gabe, any others?
I would probably choose the same ones Nima selected, but rather than Dallas, I refuse to select a Leeds defender. I don't care where they're playing on the field. I'm not going to choose them. So I would go with Adarabioyo. Maybe instead of Reguilon, Adarabioyo, but I would probably pick the same three that Nima selected.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, let's start looking down, see what's going on. I mean, the first thing is, again, this blasted chat. I mean, we need to look at it properly on YouTube because I can't see it. The first thing I noticed was my son actually said to me, he said actually right at the start of the show, he says, can you boys do a show every day of the next 10 days?
That's awesome.
Do you know why? Because he's now isolated because his friends got COVID. So he's now isolated. So and his symptoms. So get well soon, Kieran, if you have got well. But yeah, we'll have to try and do some extra content for him. But perhaps maybe he needs to give up on FPL this year because he's not doing very well. Did I just say that?
We can throw in some stereo shows. We'll see.
He wants to join us on a show one day, but God help us if he does. Gross or Trossard? There's a question in, and again, it's before the time, but I can't put it up because it's disappeared. Gross or Crossart, boys?
Trossard for me.
Trossard
for me.
Yeah. Not even with the.
You're on mute, Nima.
Yeah.
I was just saying he's Trossard for me as well.
Yeah. Okay. Gabe, you've got a request. Can you say Almiron?
Miguel Almiron.
Is this going to be a weekly one? Almiron is there.
It's got nearly as big as a cult following as Oliver the Cat.
It'll be a third show.
Guys, and again, I've written these down. I did see these coming through because I thought what would happen would be we would end up losing some of these questions. Is Sergio Aguero a serious option now, given the amount of Manchester City rotation?
No, not yet.
Not with 2 blanks in the next 5. I think closer to the end of the season, as long as he doesn't do a John Terry and sub off at whatever minute of years he's played at City. If he plays the whole of Game Week 38, he's probably my captain in Game Week 38. I can't see why he wouldn't play his last ever Premier League game. So I've already got my eyes on my Game Week 38 captaincy, and it's Kun Aguero.
Yeah.
You're just doing a David Silva special, right? You're doing it's not David. You see, there's me from Grimsby. I say
David.
Yeah. Look, I'm from the north of England, man. Stop taking the piss.
David Silva.
Yeah, I know it is. But, it's just don't take the piss out of me. It's ridiculous. Right. With Grealish out, Villa's attack looks blunt. If Spurs rest Reguilon tonight and Grealish is out, maybe he's a better option than Cresswell and Tierney. What do you reckon, Reguilon?
I think there's a lot of uncertainty at Spurs with Son out. I think he could end up the best defender pick of the game week, or not. He could end up with 1 point. Spurs could do nothing. Reguilon is known to get frustrated in games when his team is inept. So I could see if Spurs aren't doing anything, Reguilon's getting frustrated. I could see a yellow card. So I think there's upside there, but it's also fraught with peril.
Yeah. I mean, look, from my perspective, I would probably already have had him in my team if I could have worked out whether he was going to start or not. That was my perspective. Here's a question from Shravan. Is there a case to be made for 5 at the back with Tierney, Dunk, Veltman, Reguilon and Cresswell? Can you see the goal drought ending this week without City and Leicester playing?
How do you see this, Nima?
I mean, I would just say one thing. I know a few people who have looked at 5 at the back just recently, and given the matchups and the fixture difficulty, I can see why people are perhaps looking at it.
I'm playing 5 at the back.
Yeah, Nima?
I'm playing a 5-3-2.
Yeah, like I think there's definitely a good case for that to be made. Although I do think that we might be seeing the template getting ripped up within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think there was something saying that like over 50% of the top 10K still have their second wildcard. So I imagine that when that second wildcard pops, that will be a very prominent question. And I'm hoping to have 2 more game weeks of data by then of should we be targeting like a heavy back line. My fear is when you invest too much in the back line, it can get very difficult to get back out if suddenly premiums start firing. So if the likes of KDB, Aubameyang, Aguero, Kane, Bruno, Salah all start doing well, you're going to be a lot of hits away from getting out of that kind of heavy invested back line. So I'm nervous. I wouldn't go as far as 5. I'd maybe go 4.
I mean, my perspective is I'm going to stick with someone like Tosin or someone like that.
Rudiger. He's
Rudiger as well. I mean, great.
So I have like 4 somewhat heavy hitters in defense. They got me, my 5 defenders got me 39 points last game week, which is quite decent. And Rudiger is cheap enough to be a 5th defender that plays almost every match. Tosin who? Adarabioyo.
And there's the next question. Tosin or Anderson?
Tosin for me. Tosin.
Yeah, I think I like what I've seen from Tosin. Ex-City player.
Anderson's numbers are pretty good though.
They are pretty good. Yeah,
they are.
Numbers.
Can I just say one thing actually? So we're talking about free hit, and I said if you don't do it this week because you have 7, you could do it in 33 for the next blank. There is also the option of if this kind of potential double game week 35 happens with the semi-finalists or quarterfinalists from game week 36 FA Cup. So two matches could move from 36 and be a blank there and move into 35. And then the Aston Villa and Everton double ups and Southampton Crystal Palace or Tottenham Southampton could move into it. So there could actually be 8 teams, according to Ben Crellin, that have a double game week 35. So that could be quite a far more upside pick to go after 8 teams having a double game week in 35 than 4 matches in 29. But yeah, that's I'm
going to have to watch this back. Drank too much wine now. Right, here's another question. Madger or Lookman?
I think I would go with Maya because he's a forward. I would not want to spend a midfield spot on a player like Lookman that really struggles to finish in a team that doesn't attack that much. I think even though Maya is more expensive, the opportunity cost of having a forward from Fulham, I think, is much less than dedicating a midfield spot for a Fulham player.
Yeah. And just always, I mean, we could obviously say good hello to everybody who we've got tons of people on, but say FPL tips. Harry's on. Hello, Harry. How are you doing? Yeah, I think he's just commented. I think the metric is crazy. Well, I think it is at the moment. I think it's getting to a point where it is crazy. I'm not quite sure. FPL Banger is now saying the Orba cap is on. That might be due to the cat, because Nitesh is saying the cat seems confident.
Well, I'm waiting to see Orba's brace and halftime sub. I think that will raise a lot of eyebrows. You heard it here first, chaps.
Maybe the metric should exclude non-premiums and Salah. I mean, look, I have to say, I mean, how the mighty fall. And I'll talk about another mighty option whilst I'm looking for more questions. What do you think about TAA being left out the England side, guys?
Well, I saw the quote from Southgate about how he's not been as good as his previous years. But
you're shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. I think he's just trying to be clever. We do have a lot of right backs. The fact that Wan-Bissaka is going to play for Congo instead of England should kind of tell you what you need to know. There are way too many good right backs in the English setup right now. I don't see a world where TAA isn't the number 1 for the next 10 years, though. I think this is a kind of punishment and fire up the arse before the Euros.
He's making tons of mistakes, though, isn't he? You can't make those mistakes in international football.
Yeah, but the teams England play, like, they beat all the crap teams and they can't score a goal against any decent team, as we saw in the World Cup. So, you know, I think that this will be the Euros where Southgate gets sacked for playing 5 defenders and 2 CDMs and having 7-8 outfield players who defend and getting knocked out.
Grimsby are already going to get relegated out of the Football League, and now you're going to tell
all I know is, like, when your best managerial achievement is a Marks and Spencer waistcoat, that's not a good reason to stay on as manager. Like he wouldn't have got the job if Sam didn't get sacked. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Enough said. I'm feeling depressed now. Here's another question from
England are not going to do well. That's what I'm saying.
Drink your wine, man. Get back to your wine. That'll help you.
I'm feeling depressed now. Cresswell or Dallas, guys?
Dallas played midfield last game, right? I think Alioski is still playing in the back fullback position. So just on the off chance that Dallas actually plays in midfield, I can't see why I would not go for him against Fulham over someone against Arsenal.
Okay, that's fine. Gabe? Nehel's asking, what do you think of saving a free transfer this week for game week 30? I think there's an argument to say yes. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think I would rather save a transfer than take a hit this week.
Okay.
I think so.
Rapid fire. Here we go. Shams, is it okay to take a hit for a Brighton defender this week?
Do you want to take that one, Mariner?
Help yourself.
I would only do it if you need them in game week 33 blank as well to field 11. I would see it as like an opportunity to get a player for both blanks if you can bench them in between.
That's a good shout.
But only if you need them. And I wouldn't be going for Dunk for that 5th defense spot. It would be Veltman.
No, I actually think that I've cooled on it. I'm actually now thinking I would prefer to go for a longer term move, thanks to Gabe, of somebody like Cresswell, and just hold him now between now and the end of the season, and hope that we get the odd return between now and 34. But then West Ham's fixtures get really tasty after 34, and I think that's when it could be really useful. But I'm just thinking I don't want to keep making moves in and out all the time. I think there's still going to be issues we're going to have to fix.
Yeah, we're almost pre-planning moves when we're going to have other fires to put out that will cause us headaches.
Pre-planning moves for kind of the lower level defenders is probably not the best.
No, it's not the best.
It's all bad.
Correct. One of the biggest lessons I learned last year is don't make too many transfers on defenders. Nitesh, Aguero could be a captaincy punt against Leeds in 31 with UCL fixtures either side. Oh, God.
Why would you do this to us? So someone was saying before the stream, right, about the little hokey cokies back. So the Kane to Aguero, Aguero to Vardy.
Yeah, I think it was the hitman himself, Joe. But yeah, I did see something similar. Here's one from Thavindra Raj. 2 free transfers, 8 playing, including, here we go. This is where we need to concentrate, boys. Bamford, Son, Veltman. Would you do one or two of Cancelo to Tierney, Salah to Auber, Gundo to Odegaard or Lingard, Mariner? And Gabe, Nima has voted.
I voted in the comments, yeah.
Crikey. Look, I would take Tierney out now. I think if I had a City, I own Tierney and Stones, I will lose Tierney almost certainly this week. And the reason is he's expensive and I cannot be certain he's going to play. Stones.
Cancelo, right?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Am I losing my mind? Cancelo. No, Cancelo. Yeah. Cancelo, yeah. I would take him out. I'll take Cancelo out.
That would be my first move out of those 3 options he's looking to sell, yeah.
Yeah, I'd take him out. And be honest with you, I think the reason is I'll keep Stones because I think first it was cheaper. And secondly, I have a feeling, I don't know whether I'm right on this, but does Cancelo come on occasionally for a 1-pointer? Whereas when Stones isn't picked, does he not come on at all? Does he stay on the bench? Which, quite frankly, if we've got someone like Stones sitting on the bench every now and again, I'm not that bothered about.
So Cancelo has only been
it could kill you, right?
Cancelo has only been subbed on after not starting a game. He's only been subbed into a game once. And that was in the first match of game week 19 against Palace. Other than that, he either starts the game, he may be taken off after 60 minutes or so, or he plays a full 90. So he's not at risk at being subbed on.
So are you saying there, Gabe, basically that, am I thinking about this wrong? Who would you take out from my choice out of Cancelo and Stones?
I would take out Stones. I would keep, well, because for my team I have 5 defenders that are good, solid defenders that play. So I have good coverage. And if Cancelo doesn't play, I'll always have a decent coverage for him, and I want the upside. Stones has scored some goals this season. It seems like that's something that they're trying to do more of. But Cancelo has the better stats, and I think the more upside. In this question, for this situation, I would probably only use one transfer. I would probably do Son to Alba if he can afford that. If not, I think Gundogan to Lingard is good, or Salah to Alba is also good.
Yeah.
And I would save one transfer because he already has. Well, Son's not playing, so he has 7. Use one transfer. You have 8 playing for 29, and then save one for 30. That's what I would do.
It's nearly enough. Salah to Alba for me.
Salah to Alba, and then roll one transfer. I think that's good.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll try and get this done. Here's one from Scott, FPL Swang. If I wildcard in 31 and bring in Dallas, I wildcard Brighton defender. What is he saying there?
If I wildcard 31,
there's a question before. Still struggling to decide whether to wildcard in 30 or 31. If I wildcard 31, I'll double Brighton defence. Just very briefly, let's just talk about this generally. Let's talk about the wildcard option. Nima, where are we going with this wildcard? We discussed it briefly on Tuesday night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I still think 31's the right week just purely because of the international break. So I don't like the idea of kind of like, imagine you activate your wildcard now, you can't cancel it, and then like all the great options kind of get injured or get COVID or get put in quarantine. You're a bit stuffed in that scenario and your pool of players goes down. I'd rather kind of they all come back, get through game week 30 in one piece, and then attack that fixture swing that we've seen. So for me, like that would be my preference, and I wouldn't be looking to double up on Brighton defense just for the one game week and then wildcard a whole week early. Like I think the Leeds assets have an amazing game week 30. I'd rather just play them over Brighton players next week.
No. I think those fixture difficulties are very, very clear to say as well. I think that's very important, is that if we looked at Leeds, we need to look at 29 and 30. And I said, remember, let's say what we said on Tuesday, that if you've got a non-playing player in 29, it's only a -2 if you take a hit. And also, let's also think about who is playing in 30. And if you've got a very, very good fixture in 30, and Dallas immediately jumps to mind there, or if you don't own Rafinha, perhaps a Rafinha in this world would be a very, very good option to bring in as well. I think that's a very, very good hit to take, actually. That's my perspective. I would wildcard in 31. If I had my wildcard left, I would wildcard in 31. If I had my bench boost left, I would even consider bench boosting in 30. That's my perspective. If you're not too heavily loaded up on Brighton players, you might even want to have a quiet look at bench boosting in 30. Because I'll tell you now, there's some decent fixtures in 30. It flows really nicely from 29 to 30. Okay, I think we're about done. Hang on. Here's one from Nihal. If you're planning to wildcard soon, would you be concerned with team value?
I don't. I think that boat has passed. Team value boat is long gone, in my opinion.
I aren't interested anymore. I think that, if you look at it, generally speaking, you've made your team value already by now, haven't you?
It's time to spend the money, not to make the money.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, if you're making short, unless of course you're 0.1 off what you want to do, then of course
I think if you're priced out, that's a whole different story.
Out, that's completely different.
But I just can't see how you're being priced out if you're selling
you're
for a Brighton defender, or if you're selling Salah to anyone. Like you must be flooded with money.
My sale, if I was wildcarding now, my sale would be Salah to Jota.
Yeah, there's 7 million to play
with.
There's
all your money, so you don't need to worry about team value at all.
I think what I will say is if you're interested in team value as a concept, there's a couple managers I would recommend. So FPL Jossie and Chris Tan FPL. They play the hits game in the early season. And in the first kind of, I'd say 5 to 10 game weeks, they're very aggressive with hits to grow team value then. There's a lot of dead teams after the first 2 international breaks. So to have maximum value, you want to kind of move when there's millions of transfers a week happening, not hundreds of thousands. Okay. So I'd say that first quarter of the season, attack your team value then. And then that's going to be worth it for your second wildcard, first wildcard later. But at this stage of the season, it's gone.
He actually mentioned about team value, like losing players like Salah and Bruno. So, I mean,
Bruno is a bit different.
Players back. I mean, for me, Salah, I don't think anyone's got much value built up in Salah because it's just been flip-flopping all season around 12.3, 12.4, 12.5, hasn't he? Whereas Bruno, if you bought him in early, has gone up significantly in value. So if you want to take Bruno out, then of course that's fine. But you've got to find a way back to him if indeed you want him.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Getting rid of Son this week, is it a good idea? My perspective is no. I would hold him. What do you think, guys?
I say yes. Get rid of him.
Who are we getting rid of, sorry?
Son.
Yeah. Definitely sell Son.
2 against 1. I'm going to hold him. I'm not getting rid of him. He's playing Newcastle next week.
I'm just thinking about like everyone who sells him is another chance for me to rise 1 OR. I'm playing the long game.
When Son got injured, Mourinho, his comments were we'll see. He has a chance to play after the international break, right? I don't know. There are other options. So why hang on to a player that might be back, might not be back, will definitely miss this week? I say get rid.
Oh God, boys, we've gone over 2 hours. Can you believe it?
Yeah. The kids are dying for me to take them outside in the snow, so I gotta get running.
We'd have to stop talking so much. I don't know who it is. Is it Nima, or is it me, or is it you, Gabe? I don't know. We all talk a lot.
It's easy. There's a Homer Simpson line that I like to quote. It's easy to blame myself, but it's even easier to blame you guys.
Yeah,
I think we need to put those timers that we had on the Tuesday pod. So like we'll give ourselves like 2 minutes per matchup or whatever, like where we've got these 10-minute sections. I think seeing like a ticking down clock really brings the best out of us, I think.
Well, I think there's an element of that. I think what I would say is that for the main events like the matchups and like the free hits today, I think you've got to, and the fixture difficulty, I think you've got to give those time.
Yeah.
I just do. I just don't think you can shorten that. But saying that, we could always do other stuff. In fact, I've got to the point where I'm starting to lose my voice. But there we go. There's nothing new there. Guys, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you. Thank you so much. As always, we'll timestamp it. I dare say people will just watch the bits as usual. Gabe, have a great weekend up in Big Bear Mountain.
Big Bear Mountain, that's right. I'll post the matchups shortly in the next couple hours here. So that it'll be up on Twitter. So
cool. Nima, thank you.
Love it to see you guys. Been a great stream. Hope to revisit you for a live stream soon. Work pending, but obviously we'll
but we'll have to decide what we'll let people know on Twitter what we're going to do in the international break. Whether we do a little Q&A or I know we all need a break.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we do something towards the middle half of the international breaks. Some kind of. I think Q&A sounds fun.
I think we all need a break for sure. But then I think we should do something, and we can do the review, and we can do the review in the second week. I suggest.
Perfect.
Not the first.
Yeah, that's
week.
a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. All right, boys. Right. Thank you very much, guys. I'll just say goodbye to everybody, and we'll quit it for the night. Guys, thank you so much. It was meant to be a shorter show. It wasn't, because we talk too much as usual. But thank you very much again, as always. Please do give the video a like. Please do leave a comment. I think you can leave a comment this week because I've put the settings the right way. And please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Apart from that, not a lot else to say, but have a great game week 29. I hope it has a green arrow for you. I hope if you're not free hitting, it doesn't cause you too much of a red arrow. I think that's certainly my perspective. And I will see you tomorrow because I'm hosting Expectations as it happens, I think. But apart from that, I just wish everybody all the best, and we'll see you real soon. Cheers. All the best. Bye-bye.